Okay, so that's pretty much it. What we're going to be talking about, this would be an example. I do the videos, I'd have some exercises and that sort of thing, some activities. So this is kind of what we would do K2, that we would just come in and introduce. After that, we're going to be doing activities in the room about how you can use all of these tools. And on the tables, go ahead and look at those. Those are all examples of tools that we would use in the classroom, Tier 1.
Okay, so I want to just add a few more things. So, as you're looking at those handouts, if Deb and I if we have a kid in our group, and they're a kid that's in your class, we may use any of those tools. So it kind of depends on the kid, what we would use and what we would bring back to your classroom. So some kids might breeze through, really get the zones, but they really need to learn what they need to do to bring themselves back down or to bring themselves back up. So we might be working on their specific tool. So then we might bring that to you and say, you know, if you notice this, or if they're down in the blue zone, they need to be back up. Here's some tools that we've identified for this kid that works. So I just want to go through these really quick. So in the blue zone, you know, your energy is really low. And so you guys probably know all this, but what you'd want to do is something that would bring your energy up a little bit. Now, the thing that Deb and I learned is that yellow zone is really tricky. It's really easy to get into the yellow zone, and once you're in the yellow zone, it's really easy to get into the red zone. So this is tricky because you're bringing them from blue. You want to get them just alert enough to be ready to learn, but not too alert. So it's kind of this tricky, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Sometimes you take them too far and you go, oh, shoot, you know, and you learn from that. So, and I think every day is different. So just so you know, blue zones, you want to bring their energy up a little bit, not too far, and then the next, you know, if they're in the yellow or the red zone, of course, bring them back down. So belly breathing, take a breath, fidgets, those kind of things. So if you can just kind of think about regulating them back down.
And one thing that teachers have already talked about is the concern about so many tools available to kids randomly. But there are, and I think they're on those back tables, we work with your class or the individual group about you really have to treat these as a tool. They're a therapeutic modality to use to help children regulate. So it's not about taking the koosh ball and having a lot of fun with that. If it is not working to bring you back into the green zone, then it is not an appropriate tool for you. So helping kids go through all of the tools and helping them realize, does this work for me or does this not? So I don't need to worry, or we don't need to worry that you're going to have a classroom full of everyone chewing gum and throwing koosh balls at each other. That's really not, they have to be tools and we have to work with them about whether or not they're working.
And you know, you might be wondering, what am I going to teach them that? How am I going to do that when I have a whole classroom? You know, Deb and I, that's a place where we can support you. Is here we've identified these tools. We can be in your classroom at a time when it's really they should be using those tools. We can come in and be there and kind of prompt the kid while you are teaching your classroom. So we can help you out with that stuff. These are the thinking tools that they use. You know, Deb went through the K through 2 presentation, but when you get up into the upper grades, you're really talking more about your thinking and really making that connection between, okay, you had this thought which made you feel this way, or you're having this feeling, how can I use my thoughts to change that feeling? So it gets a little bit more complex. Kindergarten through second, they're not going to be able to do that. It's mostly just recognizing feelings, but when they get older, you use a lot of these. So use flexible thinking, positive self-talk, change your thinking. What is the size of the problem? That's a big one we use too.
And we're done. We're not going to watch that video, but it is cute. How do I get back?
Click to the.
Help me.
What they will learn is identifying the zones. Actually, most of our kids are really visual thinkers, and they kind of get this right away. And it's amazing. You think a kid who hasn't otherwise been able to verbalize how they're feeling, being able to say, I'm in the yellow zone. I mean, they can do it really quick because it's visual for them. So obviously doing that, we make a fun little card where we take their picture in each zone. The kids love that, and then it kind of turns into a bookmark that they use to reference. Explore and identify how they think, feel, and look like in each zone. And so the zones book has great activities as far as, and you can always do this after the fact. This might be one of those one-on-one things, maybe something that happens in a classroom. Then Deb and I can take them aside and say, ooh, what happened? When you acted like this, when you threw your pencil across the room, you know, how did other people feel about that? There's some really great handouts in there, so to get them thinking about what they look like and what they look like to other people in those zones. Learn to identify their triggers, that's huge.
We also have one that we can do how to identify the triggers of the classroom. So we can do that together too.
Identifying coping tools and how to use them. Learn to apply tools and techniques in all areas and focus on long-term building of skills. Now, if we have your kids for a 12-week group, for instance, it's very unlikely we would get through all of this because it takes a lot of time to learn a new skill like that. But those are some of the areas we might be teaching them.
And it is true, I do know magic, but it doesn't work here.
So they place a big emphasis, the zones of regulation, on expected versus unexpected behavior. So what is expected in this, and how are you making people feel? And I think a lot of kids who have troubles with self-regulations don't have this skill. I hesitate to tell the story, but I'm going to tell it. So in the group, or in the program, there's a suggested activity. It's not a required one. And it is where you have your kids come in, you have an activity for them, so I put out some blocks. So they start playing with the blocks. And then you as a teacher are supposed to start acting very unexpected. And so as they come in, I started really small. I can't even remember. I think I was just kind of interrupting them. And then, seriously, none of them noticed it. Then I'm like patting the table, loud. One of them looked over and was like, but the rest of them just kept on with their activity. And then I got really crazy. Like I laid down on the table and was like talking really loud, and they did not even notice. And so the point of the activity was to do that and have them work through those feelings of, it was really weird when you did that. It was really uncomfortable for me, Mrs. Rossman, when you did that. Well, they weren't uncomfortable. And I think that speaks a lot to where our kids are, some of our kids are, is that they're not paying attention to cues around them. They're not really concerned about what you think about them. And so really to kind of get them really thinking about, you're making people uncomfortable. Look around at the class right now. The whole class had to stop. Those kinds of things. And just drawing their attention in a safe and gentle way as far as what's expected right now and what's unexpected. That's the language they use.
So this picture is an example that anyone can be taught how to regulate themselves. I am the out-of-control red zone child, and I love my brother who's not expecting that behavior, but boy is he concerned. So I want everyone to know that, I rarely get in a red zone these days. So obviously I've been taught and retaught.
Okay, so again, what does this look like? You know, our hope would be that a lot of us are using the same language so that kids can learn quicker, that we assist students in the moment to identify and label what zone they're in and how they're coping. Like Deb said, in our group, we didn't see a lot of behaviors. You guys are seeing them in the classroom. So there's a breakdown there, and so if you can in the moment go, wow, you're in the red zone, it looks like you need to use one of your tools, that's going to be way more powerful than us when they're calm in our office and we're talking about it. Remind students to use their tools, ask a counselor or an advocate or school psychologist for assistance with classroom lessons. Occupational therapists are an excellent resource, and I saw Rita here, Rita Haskins and Sarah, our OTs, who have a wealth of information on sensory strategies for kids. Just knowing that there's a zones group and that you can refer to us, and then using your daily interactions, so you can use it class-wide so that all the kids are learning about it.
So Lori brought a variety of tools. This is just a slide of some of the tools. I want to bring your attention to this Zones. There's so much available. There are Zones apps. There's a breathing app. You can do your Zen garden. There's a bunch of things that you can do, but this is a Zones game, and it really helps kids. So if we're not available, they can walk through the game of how do they get to the different strategies and coping. So that's an app. And these are just, along with what's on your table, these are tools and activities and things that are all related to the zones. And Lori can share some of the things that she brought, but a lot of people, when we start talking about zones, well, I want to have my book. So if there's anyone in this room that wants a book, we will purchase one through the Montana stores, and I will make sure I get you one. But here's the deal. You don't need to do, this is just a book of activities.
I put together a little calming area, and because you guys are such awesome teachers, I'm sure you already know about all of this, but if you want to come over later and look at it more closely, these are just some samples of how you can put together a little sensory, cozy nook in your classroom, having an overstuffed beanbag chair, little pillows, headphones, we have weighted vests, weighted blankets. Rita and Sarah are our experts for sensory supports, and Rita has offered to give some extra PIR that we could do as a continuum staff if everyone wanted to kind of get into more of the sensory stuff. But these, and I'm sure you guys have used these different these little city chairs, and these are some different kinds of textures for them to feel, different balls. All of this is actually quiet, so kids can do this in the classroom and just get regulated on their own and then come back to their work. And it's great that Dev has the grant, that we have the grant, and that whoever would like, we can have some more supports. So.
Coping skills that we can use, and they're available in your classroom, and then I would help you purchase those. So at minimum, we do a presentation, and then we would go over that. There's lots of other tools. All you have to do is send myself or Andrea an email and let us know that you're interested. I am not trying to sell anything. We don't get any profit from selling this book. So we have nothing to gain other than we're really vested in Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and this is our kind of our first collaborative step going forward into helping teachers saying what is available. So what can you do, what can you offer, how can we come into the classroom, and what can our children do for Tier 2 as far as groups. So super excited that this is the first, it's not going to be the last thing that we offer. We're actually, the three of us are doing Why Try training next week. So lots of fun things coming down, and we're taking full advantage of the resources from Montana Source. So if there's something that's related to behavior, mental health, that you would like us to explore more as a school, then you ask, because I want to take advantage of those resources. We have 3 years left, and I'm going to use every dime that we have. So if you want Zones books, if you want posters, you want a class lesson on any of the activities that are on the table, they all have different ones. All you have to do is send us an email. I'm not going to hound you guys, so just send me an email. First come, first serve, and we'll go from there. So this is an example of another thing that we could do with your whole class or just people in a group. So Zones books encourage you to make these for all of the students. What we found is emojis are great, but it's really nice when we spend the time working with students to how do you look, how do you feel, and this is what you look like in those zones. That's my daughter, I made her do that. So I really wanna get some feedback and some questions on how's this gonna work, what does it mean to you, and what do we do from there?